Rabbits live.
When your cat's three, when your dog is two, and it's hard to know what. I wear a mean dark pair of shades.
Lions.
How y'all doing tonight?
501 Vikings.
As they coming in the chat tonight, make sure you hear Premier Guru Teach and Tell It, episode 1, Stat Talk. We're gonna talk about a lot of things, but Stat Talk is the main conversation tonight. We also want to get our plugs in right now. Remember, man, NCAA double football, NCAA double A. Make sure y'all getting prepared to going into the transition of that to be a part of Madden Franchise Junkies. You heard? As we continue to go, we got seasons left, man. We got about 4 or 5 seasons left before we get to the real combine and all that stuff, and the real draft season starts. So make sure y'all start prepping for that. Make sure y'all get y'all spots locked in as soon as possible. But the Guru Teach and Tell It, man. Teach and Tell It. The title itself is revealing. All right, every time I do my solo show, Teach and Tell It, I'm going to teach something, I'm going to tell something. Every time. That's going to be the theme of every time I do a show. Each episode will have a teaching situation and a tell situation. So as we go through things, let's go. We are in week 15 right now, and the season is flying. We are already at the tail end of this season. There's a lot of good football being played. At the same time, guys, man, at this point of the stage, what your team look like, there shouldn't be a team in the league that doesn't have at least a 90 above overall roster at this point. So it becomes skill set in a sense. Everybody got those type of players running around, man. Is what you do with your scheme is going to take you to that next level. Going forward. Get your ass in the cage. You act like I don't see you sneaking out, and I beat your little ass. All right, man. As we get into it, man, what players been balling all year long, man? I want to make this a long, universal conversation. I don't want to just talk about the same old players over and over again. But we're going to look at some stats and just see what guys are doing in the season this year as we get into episode 1. Welcome to the platform, fellas. Make sure y'all tagging y'all names as y'all come in so I know who y'all are, who's following, how many guys in the league are following. Usually my gifts and things go hand in hand with how many people from the league is actually watching the video. All right, so if you're here with me and you've been playing a long season right now, we've been having good football play out of some very good divisions this year. Honestly, things have been really good. The division fights have gotten better, man. Like through across the league, like it don't even matter what division you're coming from, but the fights in the divisions have been like really good, like really good. So, that means that we did a good job of distributing teams and putting guys in divisions. And actually, you guys did it for picking your teams, the teams y'all wanted. But with that being said, the way these divisions are going right now, and there's a big time fight in these divisions right now, and guys are doing the show. Guys are really battling it out, man. The NFC North stands out to me. The AFC North is pretty solid as well. The South of the AFC is pretty good. The NFC East, we got some fights going on over there. You got a little bit of situations in the AFC West, the AFC South. Like all four conference divisions are really solid. There's at least two teams over there battling it out, fighting for things. So I like to see that, man. That means we got a really good balanced football league right now, man. And even guys that normally don't win games, I'm starting to see a turnover on roster development, particularly the Giants. I want to talk about my boy Harold for a little bit. I like some things that he got going on over there. We'll talk about that as I go through. That'll be part of my teach therapy sessions. You know what I mean? Some of y'all might enjoy listening to some of the things that I say or know, right? I do think I got a really good handle on franchise mode. I understand how to play the game. I understand the game. And then I understand my league. So I don't think I'll just be saying anything far-fetched just to be making up shit and saying things. I think I'm going to be saying what I know, And then the tell it part of it is, hey, that'll be my clue. Stay in. You're going to have to stick through the show to be able to get to the tell it part of it, though. So let's get into some season stats right now through 15 weeks of football. All right, when you look at our quarterback play right now, Dan Marino Jr. for the New York Jets. Dan Marino's in his second year from out of the University of Pittsburgh. Let's talk about Dan Marino for a slight bit right now. Dan Marino took his team as a diaper dandy, as a true rookie. He took his team to a Super Bowl, losing that game by a really short score. Being one of the first quarterbacks, that's a rookie quarterback, to really take his team that far, and Game of Thrones 5 this disc, right? He had hell-raising numbers last year, and he's building upon that right now. When you take a look at Dan Marino, obviously Dan Marino Jr., you know what his dad was about, one of the best NFL quarterbacks of all time, and his son comes in and trying to follow that path. Same college, just a different team. Same division though, right? Just a different team though. But when you look at what Danny did last year, he almost threw for 7,000 yards. He threw 97 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns away from having 100 touchdowns in the season. He threw 31 picks, and he was 66 completion percentage at 12.3 yards a play. Right now, he's on track for that again, right? 57, 70, 81 touchdowns, 32 picks. He do have one more pick than he had last year, but he's up in completion percentage, 68, and he's up in yards per attempt, 14.1. Also yards per game. And that's what you want to see. You want to see your quarterback get better. And sometimes you look at numbers and you be like, well, how does he get better than that? And he is right now, right? He's getting better than that. Anytime you go up in your completion percentage, he's almost at 70% this year. He goes up in yards per play. That means he's more comfortable with his playbook. I think he's one of 2 quarterbacks in this league that literally don't have to huddle up, right? Their coaching staff trust him to get his team into the right. Like, you have to really understand your talent around you. You understand the system because they have an offensive coordinator over there. And when you got a guy like Peyton Manning as your offensive coordinator, then you're going to do Peyton Manning things, right? Peyton Manning was like his own offensive coordinator. And I think he's raising Marino to be the exact same player mentally that he was. And you see it. Like this team has been the only team on our broadcast pick'em game, right? We just had a pick'em game against the Kansas City Chiefs where they had to cover 23. They did exactly that. And both those games, we got to see Marino actually operate at the line of scrimmage. They do a really good job of getting his guys in and out of plays. To be able to do that, it starts with understanding what people are doing to you defensively. All right. Anybody can come out here and not huddle up, call a play, or hot route master and hot route adjustments and things like that. Anybody could do that. But the guys that know why they're doing that, those quarterbacks that understand why they're doing it, are the quarterbacks that are going to separate themselves, right? Guys that understand what you are in coverage-wise or what you're trying to do to them coverage-wise is going to have success because they're going to put their guys in the right situation. Now, the flip end of that is if you guess wrong, right? If you got a hot read and you're expecting the guy to be somewhere and you're not expecting the defensive player to be somewhere, then you can get yourself in situations and throw 31 INTs on the year. Now, what Marino has is he has a case of understanding what guys want to do to him defensively across the league, right? Now, not too many people line up and say, all right, I'm playing Falk, the coach. I'm playing Coach Falk and the offensive coordinator of Peyton Manning's mind, right? Not too many people line up and say they plan, all right, I got to do this, and that differently to play this coach. Guys don't care who they plan. They're going to play the defenses they play, the things that they're comfortable with, and they're going to stick to that throughout the game, right? Now, when you're a coach and you're not really doing real football things, like when you prep for the week for your team, you got installations, you got all types of stuff that you do as a football team to get prepared for the opponent you're going to play. So in Madden, it's dumbed down. Guys watch film, and if you say you don't, you're a fucking liar. But guys watch film, guys pay attention to who they got to play. But the main thing is this. Most guys are going to play defense the way they play defense, right? They're not going to do too many change-ups. You have coaches in this league that will, right? And those guys, sometimes they get to an elite status of doing so, and that makes them a hard win every time, right? You're going to have to play guys, but majority of the league is going to play the defenses that they're comfortable in, right? So you got two sets of situations that I see Dan Marino understanding, right? So you're gonna have your zone fit guys, right? Guys that utilize the zone fits and then play their couple of coverages to be able to play the zone fits, right? So you have to have an understanding of what zone fits look like and where they're set. And when you're playing a team, right? Then you got guys that just call plays, and we call them butt naked play callers. They just call a defense with not too many adjustments along with it. They just call their defense and they play. Well, they're the guys that you're going to play them with the mindset of you're playing a computer. You find their user, get their user out of the picture. Everything else is AI controlled computer, right? And then you got the guys that know how to adjust, coverages, right? It's two different adjusters. You got guys that adjust everything to the same coverage they really want to play, and you got guys that adjust coverages to what they see on the field offensively. All right, so that's a lot of understanding at quarterback to know, right? Because you have to figure that out within the first couple of series of playing somebody. You got to figure out what type of team they are and what they're trying to do to you in the first couple of series that they have. And it's not easy, right? Because you always gotta plan for the uncontrollables, right? And the uncontrollables are, adjustments on the fly that happen to you. Who's doing what on the fly that you not anticipating because of you didn't get that read through their first couple of possessions. They didn't show you this. They brought it out later on, right? Uncontrollables. Well, Dan Marino does a really good job of understanding who he's playing, when he's playing a person, and by, I would say by second quarter, he has a handle on what you're trying to do defensively. And because of that, he can line up, call plays, and really know what you win. Two phases of knowing what you win. Before they get out the huddle, when they get out the huddle and they look at your alignments and stuff, they can have an idea of what you win. And then there's the guys that know how to follow safeties, hike the ball and watch what those safeties do, and boom, you pick up on what they're doing off of that, right? Now, to be able to be a guy to be able to understand what you're doing when the ball's hiked, if you're a guy that's not huddling up and you calling plays and you're hot routing everything, you should be able to hot route every route that you got out there should be able to beat one coverage, right? And that's the matchup now. So what Dan Marino does really well is he design concepts. And in the concepts of getting his guys in position to run certain stuff, when the ball snaps and he identifies what you win by your safety play, then he knows what routes he has on the field to be able to beat the coverages that you're in. So when you're playing a Dan Marino, the guys that give him problems is guys that apply pressure right away and guys that can confuse him on what he think he's seeing and confuse him into throwing the ball the way they want him to throw it, right? He think you in a cover 2 and you're really in a 9. And he throws to the cover 4 side. thinking that it's cover two. And he throws a pick. That's the confusion with a quarterback that's like Dan Marino that comes up to the line of scrimmage and makes all his calls from the line of scrimmage. It's a check with me system. But Marino's doing a hell of a job, and I guess you guys understand that by the numbers we're looking at right now. All right. His numbers is tremendous this year. 5,770 yards, 81 touchdowns, 32 picks. Averaging 68 completion percentage. They got the 4.1 yards per attempt, and yards per game is at 444 right now. Marino. All right. Now, when you look at the Marino games that he's played this year, you're looking at a guy, as you go through his weeks, this is the tell-all. What games that he's comfortable in, what games that he's not comfortable in. Let's take a look. Against the Chargers, opening day, with your new team on the road. You got a new team, right? It's season 4. You brought some new talent in. You got some things going on right now. And their new talent they brought in was at the wide receiver position. And nephew, Will Falk. Dynamic 6'5", speed demon at the wide receiver position. They brought him in, right? And now that's a new toy that Dan Marino has to get used to. It's not a guy that he threw the ball to all last year. That's a guy that he had a training camp with. He had, OTAs. He had preseason with, and then get to week 1 and he playing the Chargers, and he 115.1, 538 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 3 INTs. So then you ask yourself, he was picked off 3 times in this game. How many attempts did he have in this game? Well, he was 35 passes he threw in that game, completed 24% of it. Obviously, if you look at the yards per attempt, he was attacking downfield, right? 15.4 yards is a little bit downfield throwing right there, right? It's past the first down mark. So he came out against the Chargers and he understood that this is a team that he can, pretty much should, in his mind, throw the ball really well against and be able to get what he wants downfield and don't have to play the dink and dunk game. He's going to better play a game where, he see it, he throw it. Simple as that. And in the game, you ask yourself, what did the Chargers do to trick me for 3 INTs? Or is this just INTs of trying something and it just didn't work, right? Being aggressive, right? 3 interceptions. We don't know. But we know he came out, he had a really good game there against the Bears. He threw for 380 yards, 7 touchdowns. This is a locked-in ball game right here, right? This is a quarterback that in week 2, he had a perfect QBR, right? 80% on a game and 14.6 yards an attempt. So this is a game where he was all the way locked in, dialed in. They beat the brakes off the Bears, 66-24, and that man went out there and threw 7 touchdowns. That's a big time game. This is me understanding the Bears and what they're doing to me, and me figuring it out before the first quarter was even over to know what this team wanted to do. And they did nothing to answer that. And you get games like that. You just can't do anything about it, especially when momentum swings. All right, but then they go on a roll to the Green Bay Packers, and he throws for 443 yards in that game, but he also threw 4 INTs in that game. So then you ask yourself, what, 70%, 13 yards of play, he's still throwing downfield, but he was only sacked once in that game, but he's throwing downfield, but he threw 4 picks in this game. So what do you chalk that up to? Is this aggressive football like the Chargers game, or something else happened in that ball game? Now, me as, the guru, understanding who he's playing and the guys that are in this league, what I do know is this. This is just somebody that has one of the better secondaries in the league, where you just not accounting for a defender to make a play that you wouldn't expect to be made, right? This is Dan Marino comfortable in going into game 3, knowing that he's throwing the ball around the park, just came off a seven touchdown performance, no INT day, and he gets into his week 3 performance and he's ready to light the field up again, right? But in lighting that field up, you really are learning your rookie receiver and Will Falk, and you're over aggressive with Will Falk, and you forget Jair Alexander is out there. You forget McCoy is out there as safety. You also forget there's another safety on the field for the Packers that is a really good football player that's been up in the awards race every year that he's been in the league. And your aggressiveness can get you 4 picks thrown. All right, so you come out of this game, you are upset that in 3 games you threw 7 interceptions, right? But what's the controllables? Are those 7 picks just your guy not reading your scheme right? He's not coming to the line of scrimmage and with the check with me, and he's not getting things right. That means his assignments is wrong. He's missing things. No, it's not. If I'm coming into week 4 and I knew I threw 7 picks in my first 3 games, what I'm thinking is I'm aggressive as hell, and right now I'm making those mistakes. Right? It's not nothing we're doing wrong. It's just me being aggressive, and I'm a gunslinger, and I feel like I can fit. It's the Brett Favre effect. All right, let's just go there. It's the Brett Favre effect. But then you go to New England and you play a divisional game, and then it's time for concern now, right? Oh, you threw 4 million yards, you threw 5 touchdowns in that game. You also threw 4 picks in that game, and now you're having the worst completion percentage of your season thus far. Your yards per attempt is up 17, but you're down to 61 completion percentage. All right, and this is just a coach and staff, and you know how if you guys coach football or been around the sport, somehow you've been coached by like guys, whatever. You know how hard it is to go play a team that you know you 30 points better than, and still come into that game and not make mistakes or do unfocused things that can cause you a situation. How many games have somebody lost because they know they're better than that opponent and they just don't stick to the script and they do things outside of the script? Well, that's the case here. No loss, but your numbers are the worst thus far this season because in this game you decided that, well, you're about to make your rookie receiver show everybody that he the best guy receiver in the league. So now you OP throwing the ball to him, right? And it's just, you still got to remember that guys got players. They're in the NFL for a reason, right? And it's DBs in New England that can make a play if you just off by a second or you just overdoing something. Or now I know you're throwing to this receiver all game long. We're going to put a safety over top of him. Tip pass happens. We pick the ball up. So in this case, I just think in the game where they should be cleaning those 7 picks up in the first 2 games, they come out and they stay aggressive with their gunslinger and they try to stat pad a little bit, pass stats a little bit in a sense, right? Where I think you clean him up because if you're paying attention, you know what game is behind this game. So this Patriots game is a game for information, clean up, fix some things, get your quarterback back under wraps, go into the Seattle Seahawks game knowing that you clean some things up and you're going to be a little bit more focused on what you're trying to do going forward. That didn't happen. This game, I won't talk about it because it wasn't a finished product. This is not the score of what that game was. So we're not going to talk about that game, but you come out and, you got the Seahawks, and because of what you did, 11 picks in 3 games, going into one of the best secondaries in the league, if not the best secondary in the league, in Seattle. Now, you got them at home, but you go into that game where you really didn't clean some things up. Now, it's early, so you really didn't clean some things up in that game, and, it ended up showing in that game. Then you're playing a divisional game again, and you come out, and now you start to look a little better here. You're back to the 73 completion percentage. You're back to 16 yards of play, 2 interceptions, 4 touchdowns, but you're playing a Miami Dolphins defense who have definitely a top 5 defense in the league. Fuck the stats and the awards, and we look at those things. The Dolphins have one of the best defenses in the league. All right, but you do a good job there. So we're looking at a Marino through his entire season of that 5,770 yards passing and the 81 touchdowns, first to 32 picks, and you can start to see things. And I also can tell you the story of what would make Marino unstoppable going forward, and if he can clean some things up, this team would be playing in the Super Bowl again, or can they get out it early because of some of the mistakes that we're seeing being made through the first 8 weeks of football, well, 6 weeks of football. All right, so they get to the Dolphins. They get that one, 43-34. That's a divisional game. That's one of the better divisional opponents in his division. And he comes out, he cleans up some things. He gets back to that 73%. Titans, it was a all-out ass whooping in this game. And he goes out, and this is the game where he breaks the NFL record with 13 touchdowns. He only threw 1 pick. He was sacked 4 times, but he was 73% and 16.2 again. And in this game, his wide receiver put himself in a situation to be in the record books as well. All right, so they go crazy in that game, and then they come right back to the Raiders, and they lose a game where it's just the type of team that you're going to play that's going to play the defense of, we call it the zone fit D, right? They're going to be comfortable in making you check down and pit drives together, and they're not going to give you per se what you got in the Titans game, which is you could throw the ball bombs away in this game, right? You go run under shit. You're not doing that in this game. They're gonna find out how accurate your quarterback is. This is what you're gonna find out: how accurate is your quarterback, how patient is your quarterback, and how effective is your quarterback against this style of D, right? 28-31 ball game, right? They lose this game to the Seahawks. I mean, to the Raiders, and they lost to the Seahawks. So at this point, they have 2 losses on the season, and they lose a tough game to the Las Vegas Raiders. But then you look what happens. He's under his average yards per attempt, 10.7, and he's under his completion percentage at this point right now too. So the story of stopping Marino is in the same story of how effective Marino is as well, right? In the games where he struggled, you see the completion percentage and yards per attempt go down. In the games that he excelled in, you see those numbers high. All right, so you get to the Bills game and they dominate the Bills. They throw 9 touchdowns in that game as well, but he's still at 62% right now. So how much did he clean up from the Raiders to the Bills game? All right, that's the question, right? So now we're not looking at the impressive numbers. We're looking at the numbers that aren't as impressive they been in the first half of the season, because now we're at the second half of the season, and what happens? You come out and you lose to the Dolphins, and in that process, you're still throwing for a whole lot of yards in that game. You threw 5 touchdowns, but then the INTs are there now. Again, the Dolphins secondary is very good. And you're playing a team that knows you more than most teams in the league do, right? Because they see you twice a year. And you get to the 67 completion percentage, 15.5. Your percentage is down. So to beat the Jets and this Dan Marino quarterback, you want to keep his percentage under 70 to give yourself a chance in that ball game. That's the story that's being told. Teach, tell it, right? Ravens lost, the back-to-back losses right now. Now you start to ask yourself as a coach, all right, is this the NFL, Game of Thrones league, or are we doing something that we need to fix and clean up right now? Well, the answer is within the quarterback. The answers are in the numbers, right? Back-to-back losses, Dolphins, Ravens, both are highly skilled football teams that are playoff teams and possible Super Bowl teams. They got Super Bowl rosters, right? So you come back and you lose a big time game to the Ravens. Week 11, Dolphins, you lose. Week 12, you lose to the Ravens. But you look at what the numbers look like: 3 touchdowns, 3 INTs, 3 sacks. All right, 17 for 27, 62%, 13.4 yards of play. Right now, if you've been following me, yards per attempt, he's under that. All his losses, his yards per attempt went down. The completion percentage went down, right? And at this point right now, this is his worst completion percentage game, 62 completion percentage. Again, hold him under 70, got a chance in the ball game. But all this is telling me from week 1 all the way to week 12 that the Jets are a dominant team, right? But they're controlled by Dan Marino. When you have a gunslinger quarterback, what's the chances that he's going to check into a run? What's the chances a quarterback that fling the ball all around the park is going to check and get a 3-yard gain versus trying to throw for those 3 yards? If it's 2nd and 3, is Marino when he has he has the go, right? Their coaching staff gave him the go to be able to call it at the line of scrimmage, and they trust him that he's going to get them into the right play all the time. Well, again, the answer to their struggles and the answer to their success is within Dan Marino Jr. And the numbers. Numbers never lie. Men and women do, numbers don't, right? So when you're looking at it, you start to ask yourself, well, what are they doing in the run game? Well, I don't have to leave this picture, Dan Marino's screen of his stats and what he's doing this year, to tell you what they're doing in the run game, right? What I can tell you is that they have a running back in their backfield that's a dog. But at this point right now, he's under 100 carries on the season right now. Not week 15. I'm talking about by week 12. He's under 100 carries on the season right now. So, again, teach and tell it. The numbers never lie, right? When You're not running the ball. You're becoming one dimensional, and it's by design. It's not because he can't run the football. It's because my quarterback has the freedom to call our plays, right? So when Marino isn't doing this right now, he isn't checking down and checking into a run formation or checking into a run call because he's trusting his arm. And at the end of the day, he's showing you he can do it with his arm. He's showing you he can make every throw, make every play. And right now, it hasn't been too much non-success more than it has been successful. So when things are successful, you know, you're not going to come away from. You're not going to go away from it. It's successful. Why? Why go away from it, right? But it's a lesson in every game you play, right? And as the season going on now, you know, they're in a situation where we're looking at a team that has 4 losses on the year already, or is it 3 losses? Let's go back down a little bit. All right, so Raiders beat them. Lions beat them. Raiders beat them. Dolphins beat them. Ravens beat them. And Seahawks beat them. That's 4 losses right there. Now you're in the tail end of your season with 4 losses right now. Everything starts to come to forefront right now. Then you look at the Chiefs game. This was the pick'em game the other night that we all watched. Everybody watched the game, so we all know what was in play here. All right, and he comes out and he had one of his best games, and he didn't have one of his best games because he fired the ball all over the field and he was on mark, hitting all his receivers the right way. He won the game because he installed the run game into his system. Like he decided, Dan Marino decided, we're going to win this football game, but we're going to show that we're a complete football team. And in the process of that, now you're starting to see a team that's looking pretty much unstoppable at
Bengals.
what they're trying to do, right? 67 completion percentage. Again, hold them under 70. 67 is so close to 70 that I'm not calling that held under 70 at 15.5 yards. He's back to his average per attempt again. And he goes out there and he runs a big game, 66-6. All right, everything comes to play right now. So this is a Dan Marino that you're watching right now. This is a guy that understands what people want to do to him defensively, right? And then you come out and you struggle against the Broncos. You win the ball game, but you have a struggle game. Now this is week 14. This was his last game played. So if you're the coach of Dan Marino and you give him the freedom to do what he want to do offensively, what are you doing as the Jets coach right now? How are you taking the back end of this season and turning it into a run where you can run yourself right back to a Super Bowl? All right, because what we're looking at, let me ask y'all this, and this is the part where you guys conversate with me. If you're watching, that means you're tuned in. Conversate with me. Right now, what you watching out of Dan Marino, their past first football team? Will that be enough to get them to the Super Bowl? With the numbers and stats that I showed y'all from week 1 to now, what you're seeing, the product you're seeing right now, is it enough to get to a Super Bowl? Right now in year 2, Marino might be one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league. Right now in year 2, he's probably definitely one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But he's only in year 2. Right now, Marino is on pace to being one of the best quarterbacks of all time with those numbers that he's producing in 2 seasons thus far. Marino, to me, isn't the number 1 quarterback in our league right now, but he's one of the best young. Like he's going to take us into that next wave of quarterbacks, right? You got 2 waves of quarterbacks right now, and you got the next couple guys I'm going to talk about are in that first wave, and that wave isn't best quarterbacks, although they are. The wave is, the next group up, right? You got the Herberts, the Lawrences, the Mahomes, the Jacksons, those guys that took over from the era of Brady and uh, the Mannings and uh, Drew what's his name? I'm talking about New Orleans quarterback that won a Super Bowl. You know what I'm talking about, that wave of
Breezes.
quarterbacks. Yeah, Drew Brees, those quarterbacks, right? The next wave of quarterbacks that took over from them is Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, those guys, right? And the next guys that's coming up are our 2024 and 2025 quarterbacks beyond. That's the next wave of quarterbacks. Those guys that are the Dan Marinos of the league, the Bulldog Reynolds of the league. Those guys are the next ones up, right? Um, so right now, when you take a look at Justin Herbert, when I think of quarterbacks in the league, you think of their system, you think of their production and the weapons around them. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Justin Herbert is the next quarterback that is a check with me quarterback, right? I think Justin Herbert, although they do it a little different than how the Jets do it, but he's another quarterback that can come to the line of scrimmage and get his team into the right play and right setup and right pass play, right run play, whatever the case may be. I think he's another one of those Peyton Manning type mind quarterbacks, right? Where they can do some things at the line of scrimmage that can give anybody they play hell. All right. All in the same, he's a system quarterback. All in the same, Herbert is a system quarterback. All right, when you're looking at Justin Herbert, right? It's two. You gotta have two tells of Justin Herbert, right? Because Justin Herbert started his career off as a Charger. Justin Herbert didn't start his career off as a Ram. Justin Herbert switched jerseys, stayed in the same building, and switched coaching staffs, and he took off like a rocket. Justin Herbert is a superstar on that LA Rams team right now. When you got a team full of team players, the superstar is Justin Herbert. He is the LA Rams. If you think not, then you're not watching the right shit right now. He is the LA Rams. He is the quarterback of the league right now. He is that man. He is that guy. He is that dog. He is a guy that you expect to win a Super Bowl before his career is over with, as long as he's in LA. So he's sitting on 5,838 yards this year, 64 touchdowns, only 16 INTs. But the most impressive thing about him is the 77 completion percentage. It's amazing. 13 yards a play and 444 yards a game. It's amazing. I'm sorry, 144 QBR, right? You got 144 QBR. That's amazing. 449 yards a game. So 150, 450 a game. That's amazing. All right. That's amazing. This is a guy that is within his system. Like, you got to think about it. He gets traded to the Rams. He was okay. And then that very next year, after a full offseason, a full training camp, a full mini camp, a full preseason, Justin Herbert took off like a rocket. And he hasn't slowed down since. At this point now, Justin Herbert is a guy that you're guaranteed to have to cover the passing game when you play this team. You're going to have to lock into what they're doing offensively, and he's going to lock into what you're doing. He's another quarterback that once he plays a few series with you, he's going to understand what you're doing to him or what you're trying to do to him, and he's going to concept you to death off of that. When you look at numbers, it tells you a story. When you look at numbers and it tells you a story, you follow that story to find out what you're dealing with. So to go through Justin Herbert's story of this season, you look at not the touchdowns, not the interceptions. You look at everything after his longest completion. You look at sacks, completions, attempts, completion percentage, and yards per attempt. And you follow that. And that tells you the story of Justin Herbert. You follow that through every game from week 1 to 14. And it tells you the story of Justin Herbert. It tells you exactly what you're dealing with, who you're dealing with, and what's his capability through those numbers, right? To me, you're going to see a fluctuation when it comes down to yards per attempt. And that's the major story. So like when I'm reading all these numbers and I go through it, just what I can see on screen right now tells me the story of Justin Herbert and who he is. All right. So week 1, 10 and a half yards of play. Week 2, 12 yards of play. Week 3, 22.7 yards of play. Right? That's just one of those, you got out of bed and you couldn't do nothing wrong. Anything you did worked. 95 completion percentage. But against the Broncos, 74 completions. Against the Seahawks, 86 completion percentage. Against the Chargers, 95%. Against the Lions, 80%. 10 and a half yards per attempt. Against the Cardinals, 85%. 11.4. Against the 49ers, and the story is told. Without looking at the INTs, touchdowns, anything like that, I'm standing over here to the script that I'm talking about, and you can see 59 completion percentage, 9.3 yards of play, and that's the ball game right there. I don't have to look at nothing else. I know he didn't win that ball game right there. Right back to who he is, 85 completion percentage, 14 yards of play. 80% against the Raiders, 12.4 yards of play. 73% against the Cowboys, 11.2 points of play. Seahawks, only 8.3 yards of play in that game, 70% though. Panthers, 14.5. Eagles, 12.5. Chiefs, 17.3. Now, here's the story that Justin Herbert tells you. He can play the game whatever way he has to play it to win the ball game. He doesn't have to be on a mark every week to be able to win a ball game. If he has to check down and only throw for 8.3 yards of play, he can win the ball game like that. 8.3, 70 completion percentage, 21, 30, 114 4-point QBR, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 3 sacks. In the Seahawks game, under 10 yards of play, 8.3, he wins the ball game. So the numbers of his yards per attempt changes so much. You saw with Marino that they were always around the same area when he won. When he lost, it changed, but when he won, it was around the same area. Whether it's a win or a lose for Justin Herbert and that's Rams offense, if his yardage can fluctuate per play, that means he adapts to what you're doing defensively. He's going to play the game to what you're giving him, right? And that's a quarterback that is a guy that's a game manager, a quarterback that has game manager tangibles. He has Peyton Manning style type of mind, but he also can give you Tom Brady when it comes down to pitting the winning ball games, to put that killer instance in him where he can go get the win no matter how he got to get it. And to me, ladies and gentlemen, that makes him, to me, the most dangerous quarterback in our league. Prolific offenses matter. All right. Justin Herbert, that guy, right? Next quarterback I'm going to talk about is Trevor Lawrence. All right. So what you're looking at with Trevor Lawrence is you're looking at a 3-time MVP. You're looking at a Super Bowl winner. You're looking at a guy that had a city change, right? From Florida to Seattle and never looked back. You're looking at a guy throughout his career as a Seahawk that has never been under 70% in completion percentage, right? Jacksonville as a rookie, 59 completion percentage. As a sophomore, 66 completion percentage. Now, as a sophomore, he won a playoff game, 7 yards per attempt. He goes to Seahawks, 71 completion percentage, 73, 72, and right now he has 75. All right. Now, let's talk about what Trevor Lawrence is and means to the Seahawks. The moment they traded for him, they put themselves in a situation to be one of the best teams in the league and a team that always has a shot to win a Super Bowl, period. They locked their quarterback position down. So if you're Pete Carroll and a general manager of the Seattle Seahawks, for you to make the trade to go get Trevor Lawrence, you already have a system in place and you just need a guy to come execute it, right? And they go get Sunshine. And, the first thing you do with Sunshine is you put him on a chalkboard, give him the chalk, and you tell him, actually, you hold on to the chalk. You design some of your play concepts and all that, and then you ask him to tell you what your hot is, your check down is, or do you check out of that play? You ask him those 3 questions. You get the answer you want, you know you're in a good situation. I think they got the answer they want. So they deemed this offense the triangle offense, right? When you think of the triangle offense, you think of the Chicago Bulls and Phil, the kid. I'm mad as hell. I can't remember my favorite coach's name at this point right now. Matter of fact, if y'all know who started the triangle offense in basketball, Phil Jackson. Never mind. I was great to give out something, but I don't know. He came back to me. Phil Jackson. When you think about the triangle offense and what it did for Michael Jordan's career, then think it now. Try to dumb it down and put it on a football field. I'm gonna ask you to think about what is the triangle, because a lot of you guys might not even know. So for me to give you a real good handle on why we called his offense the triangle offense, you got to understand what it means in basketball, right? What it means in basketball is, now the basketball term of it is, you got multiple guys at different positions that have to be able to play the point. All right, that's the first thing. Well, dumb it down. We don't need a small forward or a power forward or a shooting guard or a point guard to be the point in the triangle offense. You need Trevor Lawrence to be the point in the triangle offense, right? Now everything else is passing the football, right? Getting the ball out, getting the ball to your playmakers. And every one of those playmakers being able to do the exact same thing for you, right? You don't need designated players to be, all right, well, DK Metcalf is my deep ball guy. That's what he's great at. That's what I'm going to do with him all the time. All right. JSN is my possession receiver. All right. No, you need all your weapons to be able to do the exact same thing for you. You need JSN to be able to rush the ball like he's the running back, like he's Kenneth Walker, right? He should be able to get jet sweeps and all that and get you 6 yards to carry, things like that. You need that. You need your tight end to be able to do exactly what your slot receiver can do. You need your outside receivers to be able to do exactly what your slot and tight end can be able to do. It all can't be interchangeable for it to be a triangle offense in football, right? And what the Seahawks have is they have a system that the players that are plugged in those positions all can interchange. And that interchangement makes that dynamic, right? He might throw to Jackson Smith 100 times a year where he gets 100 receptions. The tight end might catch close to 100 receptions. DK Metcalf might have 60 receptions. But if he was to switch DK Metcalf to a slot and JSN to the outside receiver, the production would not go down. And I think while Max called it the triangle offense, I don't think he really understood why he was calling it the triangle. I think he thought of what a triangle looks like, right, and how he plays the game. But I think it comes down to the pieces that are interchangeable. Now, you bring Trevor Lawrence into the equation, and you have the weapons you have right now, and their production goes up because you got the right quarterback. Right, your running back got to be vital in the passing game. Your running back has to be 1,000-yard receiver, just like your receivers have to be 1,000-yard receivers for your system to work. And they have all pieces in place for Trevor Lawrence. And because Trevor Lawrence has been the MVP 3 years in a row, we don't think that Trevor Lawrence is completely just a system quarterback. I think he's excelling in the system, which makes that offense dominant over there and which makes him, one of the best quarterbacks, if not our best quarterback of Game of Thrones right now. Because he doesn't have to do anything outside of it. And we've seen him in games do some things outside of the structure of their offense during snapping the football. I don't mean, call a different play that he never called before. I mean, what happens when a play breakdown? Can he be a playmaker for you? And I think that's the difference of having a Trevor Lawrence versus, a quarterback you had to breed or grow up, or, you was forced to have a guy that wasn't a guy. That's what Trevor Lawrence could bring to the table. And I think the more years go by of him being a star quarterback of this team, the more he can do out of phase. And because of that, that makes him dynamic in who he is right now. And for a guy to stay at 70 or higher completion percentage, that means he's making the right reads all the time. Trevor Lawrence. All right, so Trevor Lawrence, Justin Herbert, Dan Marino. Right now, Dan Marino isn't in that wave of quarterbacks that I talked about the where it's Marino. I mean, it's Justin Herbert, it's Trevor Lawrence, it's Mahomes, it's Lamar Jackson. He's not in that class. He's in a class behind that class, but he's playing up to that class's level right now. That's telling you that he is a superstar, right? Because he's a Super Bowl away from being the best quarterback in our league, right? He's an MVP win away from being the best quarterback in our league. It's that simple, right? And he's only been in the league for a full season, right? He hasn't even finished his sophomore campaign yet. So when you think about quarterbacks, you're thinking about guys that can, with different talents, with different skill sets, that do different things. And those different things is the reason why these guys are relevant and their teams are always in it to win it. The next phase of quarterbacks you start talking about are your 2024 draft class quarterbacks. You start talking about the Marinos class, right? You start talking about the Davion Childs, who's having a lights out season this year. You start talking about Bulldog Reynolds. You start talking about Drew Rains over there. You start talking about guys like that of that caliber. Your Amari Braxton's, those guys, those characters, right? The moment Amari Braxton was drafted by the Washington Commanders, the Commanders have been in the playoffs every year with him as the starting quarterback. Um, Drew Rain, right? Drew Rain finally gives them a guy that can grow with the weapons that they have in Green Bay right now, right? He's been a playoff quarterback as well. We know what Bulldog is doing for the Raiders, right? And he's doing that, and he's probably one of the only quarterbacks that I'm talking about right now that's not sitting on their ability. But the quarterbacks that you need to pay attention to that made it to the playoffs last year. You had uh, Bulldog made it to the playoffs last year. You had Reigns make it to the playoffs last year. You had Amari Braxton make it to the playoffs last year. This is the next wave of quarterback that you pay attention to because they're going to carry the league on, right? They're going to be the guys that are going to be the next wave, the next guys that you pay attention to. Is big, good classes, right? Really good classes, right? Marino leads that class of the new wave quarterbacks. Um, but but there's two diaper dandies that we spoke about the last time we did this show that's coming into their own. We haven't yet. And with Lamar Jackson in this league, with AR-15 in this league, with Justin Fields in this league, none of them has done over the first three seasons what Najee Israel is doing for the Ravens right now, right? You got a quarterback that you have to spy, you have to worry about in the run game. It's not mid shift. Like what I mean by that is a couple times I might take off. He's a part of what they do with the run. If you do not focus on that, you are going to have a long day. And then there's Archer for the Miami Dolphins right now. He struggled early on, but he has his team on a winning streak right now and fighting for his division as we speak right now, which is the new wave quarterbacks, right? So once you get past Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, a Dan Marino, and I will still say Lamar Jackson, although the record is not showing it this year, but you got to put Lamar and Patrick Mahomes in that same conversation. But once you get past those, the new wave quarterbacks, the Marinos, the Bulldogs, the Archers, the Najees, the Amari Braxton, and you got a whole bunch of quarterbacks that are not too far away from being able to take their franchises to higher heights. But the quarterback I want to talk about the most before we move on from this conversation is the rise of Davion Childs. All right, we got a second-year quarterback that's on superstar. Look, Bulldog Reynolds didn't even get to a superstar yet. Let's see if we can follow the progression and see if we could have found out when he went up to a superstar. Let's see if we can find it on the progression. Might not show us on his progression history, but we do know he went up to a superstar. Could have been at the end of the last year. Yep. All right, so we're not going to see it there. But let's talk about the rise of this quarterback because he was quiet in year one. We spoke about him, but we didn't really talk about him. In season one, his numbers 3,873 yards, 38 touchdowns, 22 interceptions, 62 completion percentage, 12.1 yards a play, 200, almost 300 yards a game. This year, his rating is down, but his yards is up. Touchdowns are up. INTs 46 to 36. His INTs are up as well. But he's at 62 completion percentage. Plays are down. Yards per attempt at 10.5. 308 yards a game right now. Why am I talking about him? Because we judge quarterbacks off of what they're doing in the win column right now. And this team is hot right now, and they're playing really well right now. So as you go through their first 14 games right now, you go look at a loss to the Dolphins, 31-21. A loss to the Lions, 24-21. A loss to the Packers, 27-26. And then they haven't lost another game. So we're looking at 3 losses. 1, 2, 3. 3 losses on the year right now. Davion Childs has his team playing really good football right now, and they got a shot to win their division right now. And it's because of the play of their quarterback. Simple as that. The quarterback play has risen because they already had the weapons over there. They just needed a guy to better get the football to him. So we're going to pay attention to Davion, and we're going to find out does he have what it takes, and is he going to be in that new wave of quarterbacks when we talk about these quarterbacks. So pay attention to what the Minnesota Vikings is doing with their starting quarterback and how he's been playing this year. 3 losses on the year. He's doing a really good job. Now, in those 3 losses, who did he beat? He beat the Panthers, who have a losing record right now, the Falcons, who have a losing record right now, the Bucks, who have a losing record right now, the Saints, who have a game or two over 500 right now, the Lions, who have a solid record right now, the Jaguars, who have a solid record this year, and the Giants have a losing record, Bills have a losing record, Cardinals have a losing record. So the question is, can this team perform and win a ball game when they play playoff caliber teams? We're going to find out down the stretch. But since Davion Childs has been a Minnesota Vikings quarterback, we do know they have their franchise quarterback, and we also know the play of Jordan Addison and the play of Jetta has risen, right? Jetta was quiet early on because they didn't have a guy to get the ball to him. Now they got a quarterback. Jetta is being brought back into the conversation of one of the best receivers in our league. So they play the Jets this week. It was just mentioned to me. That's going to be a tell-all right there, right? I think you measure yourself in this game. You're playing one of the teams that played in the Super Bowl last year. You're playing a team that's been in the playoffs every year. So you ask yourself, is this is a game where you're going to find out if your quarterback is ready for the ready, right? Can he go out and play? He don't have to win a game to show that he's ready. He got to play a game where it's a good football game, where he give his team a shot to win the ball game. What his performance looks like in this game is going to tell me what part of the new wave quarterbacks he'll be. Is he ready to be that guy yet? Or is he still, growing into that guy? So this is a big time game. I can't wait to watch this game. I don't know if I'm going to better watch it, but I can't wait to see the outcome of this game. I do like this Minnesota Jets matchup. Both of them got a lot on the line right now, especially the Jets. I think the Jets are trying to position themselves for a home field game in the playoffs, period. And I think the Minnesota Vikings are trying to hold off the Lions and the Packers right now in their division. So this is huge, huge time game, and we're looking to see the rise of Davion. All right. Teach and tell it. I gave you some teach. I gave you some tell it. Now I'm going to give you some information. All right, let's go back to here real fast. Go to standings. We're not going to do the hitters top 10 at all. We're going to reverse it this year, and we're going to go to teams that are losing and winning right now. So our top 10 teams right now, if the draft was to start today, will have the top 10 picks. The Colts are at number 1, 0-13. The Bills are at number 2, 0-13. At 3, the Broncos 1-12. Bucks are at 1-12 at 4. Bears are 2-11 at 5. Giants are at 6. Falcons are at 7. Cardinals are at 8. Cowboys are at 9. Panthers are at 10. This is your top 10 football teams that will have the top picks in the draft. If things was to continue, and they are, if the draft was today, this is what it would look like. Now, without even going to their roster, I could tell you this. The Colts traded AR-15 to the Bengals. They're in the market for a quarterback. The Bills traded Josh Allen to the Cowboys. They're in the market for a quarterback. The Broncos are trying to figure out if their superstar quarterback is he a superstar, or he just a quarterback with a superstar ability? But they might be in the market for a quarterback. I don't think the Bucks are desperately in the market for a quarterback, but I do know the Bucks just got Tua out of free agency and probably are fine with Tua at the quarterback. I think they got to build more around more of the team than the quarterback position. The Bears don't need a quarterback. The Giants are in a situation where they could go quarterback as well. Falcons don't need a quarterback. Cardinals don't need a quarterback. Cowboys traded for Josh Allen. Don't need a quarterback. Panthers are in phase with their Groom, Billy Groom, and they still have the number one selected quarterback from Alabama on that roster. So I don't think they're in the market for a quarterback. With that being said, if you're following college football and you've been listening to me, I've been telling you guys who's who at that position this year. All right. Now, when you take a look at it, and we just go strictly quarterback position, there's a few quarterbacks that can come in and help a franchise right now, right? Most guys are going to see Tyson McDonald at 6'5", 225 pounds. They're going to see him and they're going to say, yep, that's my guy. Especially when you click on him and you look at the stuff you need to look at, right? Everything says great and elite. So you're going to be thinking that you're getting a fast quarterback, a strong arm quarterback, an elite quarterback. However, games got to be played. Right, you got quarterbacks, and I can give you an example. Tennessee's quarterback in real life this year, the kid that transferred from the University of Michigan that took over for Hinder Hooker. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but you guys, if you watch college football, you know who I'm talking about. Before a game was played, they went off of what he did at the end of the bowl game against Clemson, and they said this is one of the strongest arm quarterbacks in the league. He's a prototypical quarterback right away. Then the games have been played, and the conversation started to step away from Joe Milton. There you go. Right now, throughout the whole year, nobody's screaming Joe Milton is the guy anymore, right? Nobody's screaming Joe Milton is that guy. I'm not saying that he ain't gonna be a great pro, but the conversation changed a little bit. I'm saying it for a reason. Tell it, teach, and tell it. Tyson McDonald for Tennessee is kind of Joe Milton-ish in a sense. Tennessee is playing well in the SEC this year, but they're not the team this year. When you start to take a look at things, Paul LaRubio from out of Pittsburgh, and if he goes number one or in the top 10, that'd be two quarterbacks in the last three drafts that went from Pittsburgh, that came from Pittsburgh. How lucky Pittsburgh got to be to have Dan Marino Jr. and follow that up with Paul LaRubio. If you heard me on one of the shows earlier in the year, you heard me say Daniel Sharp should win the Heisman this year, and this team is in the playoffs, West Virginia from the Big 12. They're in the playoffs. Simple as that, right? Daniel Sharp, don't be surprised if Daniel Sharp isn't the number one quarterback on the board before Kuiper picks out his final top prospects of the draft. Daniel Sharp is having a lights out year for the West Virginia Mountaineers right now. And he's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in college football. And I wouldn't be surprised if he takes the Heisman Trophy home and even win a championship with his football team this year. You take a look at him, and he's going to cap out to being that guy right now. So I think, when you're looking at the coaches that are on top, what fits your system, right? You ask yourself, if I'm the coach and I got the number one pick, do I go get AR-15 all over again? Right? Is that my system? Do I need a dual threat quarterback? Do I need a quarterback that can run the ball? Or do I need a Patrick Mahomes that can run the RPO game and fire the football all over the goddamn field? And Paul LaRubio, making Paul LaRubio the second quarterback from the University of Pittsburgh to go in the top 10 in the last 3 seasons, right? So I don't know, right? But I do know if I'm the Buffalo Bills, Tyson McDonald is going to fit my system. But then you're coming off of a guy like Josh Allen with the same build, same conversation, strong arm and all, can run the football if needed to be. You're coming off the same quarterback. You got rid of that already. So is that what you want, right? But what I could tell you is one of those guys are going to miss the guy that they should get if they don't get the guy that they should get, if that makes sense. When you're looking at quarterbacks, you go from top five to round one. And again, don't think that this can't change, right? Before the draft start, Daniel Sharp probably going to move up the draft board, especially after the combine. But then you're looking at McIntosh, right? Zach from out of UTEP. You also got Will Mulligan. You're looking at Stan Barber. And there's a guy that we're not mentioning right now that's going to rise on everybody's draft board if you just pay attention, right? So now, if I got a top five pick and I'm picking a quarterback, I'm not going to go get a guy that's not projected in the top five. I'm just not going to go do it. But somebody that need a quarterback is going to get an Archer, right? It's going to get a quarterback that the Dolphins got, a guy that wasn't on nobody's radar, and they picked the right guy who had the ability of the top guys in the draft, right? The top quarterbacks that came out in 25, Najee Israel, Ben Roethlisberger, uh, the kid for the Washington Commanders that dropped to the third round. I'm missing a quarterback. There's one more that I'm missing. The kid that went to the Jaguars. Um, I can't remember his name right now. Flo's quarterback. And it's one more that I'm missing. You got Roethlisberger was the number one quarterback.
Styles.
Yes, Styles is over there. That Styles kid. Now Styles and Hoodie's quarterback were third round projected. They were projected to go third round, but they had first round talent. But the Steelers and the Ravens both got their top five. They got top five quarterbacks. They were projected top five. They looked exactly like top five quarterbacks. Looked exactly like top five players in the draft. What I'm saying to you is, if you looked at Hoodie's quarterback, if you remember what his quarterback looked like day one, not talking about what he looks like now, what he looked like day one, he stole a superstar that was way down here in the undrafted, projected situations, right?
It plays on the fucking 1 yard line. Way to hold him at three.
You
Way to
got
hold him at fucking three.
you got one quarterback that's going to go to somebody that has a playoff roster and that's going to make a steal quarterback. Again, those guys in the top five shouldn't go after a guy or try to go find a guy that's not top five or round one projected. But in the case of third round McIntosh, third round Mulligan, and especially undrafted Stan Barber, these guys will move up the draft board some. Don't know what day they'll go. They got them as day three guys and undrafted guys, but they're going to move up the board. One of these guys are going to jump into the first round. I promise you. All right. Teach and Tell It. And here's the franchise guru. Teach and Tell It, episode 1, the premiere. Holla at y'all when we holla at y'all. You heard?